Hi everybody, this is Ellen. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make the happy sun or the happy sun. I couldn't decide on the face that I like the best. Like, I like this one because it's kind of closer to what I've been making, but then this one was cute too. I think it's just the bead shape that I was like, he kind of looks like he's mad or kind of like, I don't know, but I'll show you how to do it either way because the eyes go in on the same line and the cheeks and the mouth are in the same spot on both patterns, so you can kind of decide which one you like better for how you want to have them. These are 9mm pony beads, so if you use the wrap bands it might look a little bit different because, like, I think that if I had round beads, I think they both would look super cute either way, but I just think that kind of like the way they slant, he kind of makes him look like he's kind of mad or something on this one, but I think they're both super cute either way. I hope that you agree. Band-wise, it is band heavy. These are hollow inside the little points, so it's kind of a solid design, but it's 616 bands total, so a little over one pack of bands to make these. And then you'll want your eye bands, it'll either be 4 bands or the 2 pony beads, and then your cheeks and your mouth. The mouth is actually 2 bands this time, and we just stretch it out instead of doubling it up. So we'll get started. I'm not going to string my pony beads on the bands yet because they'll fall out, but I'll show you how to make them with wrapped bands if you don't have any beads. It'll be 2 bands on your hook, whatever color you want your eye to be. Wrap it around once into a figure 8, grab all 4 bands, wrap it around again, and then pull through 2 bands the color of your sun. Like that. So then you'd want 2 of these for your eyes. Kind of position them all a little better toward the center. So you want 2 of those if you're making the wrapped eye bands. And then your cheeks are made basically the same way, it's just that you're using 1 band instead. It'll be 1 band whatever color you want the cheek to be on your hook, wrapped around into the figure 8. Then you grab both bands, wrap them around again, and then pull through 2 bands the color of your sun. Like that. And you'd want 2 of these as well. So that's the easy prep work. The harder prep work is making the little sunbeams that come off the side. There are 6 of them, so you have to make 6 of them. I'll go through showing how to make 1 of them, and then you can make the rest of them. Pause the video and make the rest. And I think that after you've made like 1 or 2, the rest of them you'll just kind of you'll be able to do it without even watching the video probably, because they're pretty simple as far as how they're made. It's just, they take a little bit of time. So they kind of look like this with I have bands pulled through each end. And I am just letting these hang there, so hopefully they don't fall out. So like that. So we'll make these. I've already made 5, so I just need to make 1 more. Those over there. By the way, happy rainbow, happy sun. Awesome, right? Love it. So, also, for anybody asks, this is just the yellow jelly from Rainbow Loom, and this is neon yellow that is sold at Michael's stores. It's a Rainbow Loom brand that's distributed by Michael's only. So that's where I found these, and they started to put these back in stock again, which is good because I was using them for another project, and I'm like, they're all gone. Put them back, bring them back. So those are the colors and where they're from. So I have one loom, wrong end towards me. Wow, my mouth doesn't work tonight. So we're going to start by making the little sunbeams first. And unfortunately, it's just better to make 1 at a time as you're doing this. But it's 2 bands across your loom. We'll make a little X. Start up a little ways, or you can do it right in the middle, doesn't matter, but just we do expand 1. Once we put a little X here, we expand backwards and forwards, so we're on 8 pins when we're done. So you just need that much room when you're done. So 1 band across, 2 bands across of that. This is 2 bands, sorry. Then you'll want 2 more bands for a cap band on each one of the top pins, wrapped around 1 time. So like that. Then take your hook, and whatever band is on the bottom, you'll start on that side by going through the cap band, grabbing those 2 bands, lifting them up through, and then pulling them back towards the other side. And you go on the other side and do the same thing. Like that. Then you want to do a row around the 4 pins. So 2 bands all the way around. Yeah. Although that wouldn't have mattered, but we'll just keep them in order. Makes it a little bit easier. So like that. Then you'll flip the bottom 4 bands on all the pins. Like that. So now what we want to do is we're going to expand the top 2 pins right here. So if you start where I started, you should be able to go on this top right pin, grab the top 2 bands, and lift them up to the pin above. So there's no crossing right here. The bands that are on this pin come around, and they're still on this pin over here. The ones that are on this pin in the middle, they come around to the bottom. So now what we have to do for the other side though is I'm going to pick up all 4 bands that are on this pin, bring them up to the next pin above, and then I'll grab the top 2 and bring them back down. So again, there's no crossing right there. So once you have that, we're going to do a row around this section. 2 bands all the way around the 6 pins. When I was looking for my rainbow to show in the video, I was like, where's my jelly rainbow that I made? I'm looking for it, I can't find it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I gave it to Fen. Like, yeah, she has it. So, like this, and then again, the top 2 pins will just have 2 bands to flip over, and then the bottom one will have 4. And it'll be the same thing on the other side. I'm glad I didn't look too hard before I remembered that I had given it to her. So now we have this. So now we're going to expand the bottom 2 pins. So on these ones, I have to bring both of them down, both sides down a pin, and then bring the other 2 bands back up. So I'll go through all 4 bands, bring them down, and then bring the top 2 back. Like that. Do the same thing on the other side. Bring the top 2 back. So again, there's no crossing of the bands right here. And you'll see it'll kind of be all bunched up if there is crossing there. So now that we have this, we're going to do 2 rows all the way around. So 2 bands. This will be the first row. So I have to make another rainbow in jelly. I like the way it looked that way. So like that. Then when we flip the bands, the top 2 pins are going to have 4 bands to flip over. And then the bottom ones will have 2 bands. And on this side, same thing. Push those down. Now we'll do our second row all the way around. Like that. So you'll flip the bottom 4 all the way around. So like that. So now push these down. You'll want to pull up the center. I'm going to unhook the bands from this end, bring them over the top of that middle pin so they're kind of on the inside. Again, make sure the bands are pushed down. This side I don't really worry about doing anything with yet because of how we take this off the loom. It's a little different than normal, so just kind of bear with me here. But what I'm going to do to take this off the loom to get it ready for this shape in the triangle, so I'm going to start on the right side, put my hook through those bands there, grab those, then I'm going to come over to the left, grab those, and then staying close to your loom, come back over to the right side, grab those next 4 bands, and then back again to the left side and grab those 4 bands. And I'm still close to my loom, so I've taken off half of my pins and there still should be 4 left. So then what you'll do is you'll take 2 bands, hook those on your hook, and then you'll pull them through all the bands that are on your hook right now, without trying to snag everything. Pull it through, and then I try and center it as much as I can right now, and then put both ends of that band I pulled through back on the hook, like that. So now, this is the part where it gets a little bit harder because as you pull more of this off, then the last couple pins, they want to pop off, or the bands want to pop off the pin. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to the right, then the left, then when I get here, I kind of bring it down towards the loom, push my bands back down, and the center will need to pop over that pin. Pop it over, and then go back to the right, keeping your thumb on the left side, go back to the right, and then come back to the left and grab those last ones. So again, now you're going to take 2 bands and you'll pull them through the first, all the group of stuff we just put on our hook, but you'll leave those first 4 bands from where we pulled through on the other side alone. So I'm going to pull it through till it's like this. And again, I'll center it. Maybe put them both back on, center it. Start giving it some tugs while it's like this. And then you should be able to just take your hook out carefully. And it will stay like this. So we don't have to stack them on the loom and worry about that. So that should be fine. And although you can wait until it's actually attached to your sun, you can find kind of this middle section here and pull out the point. So you get the nice little triangle shape. So then once you've made all 6 of these, you just kind of set them aside until we need them. And they're not super hard to put on the loom, which is nice. But so you want to pause your video here, make the other 5 of them. Like I said, I hope you thought it was fairly easy to make those. It takes a little bit of time, but they're pretty easy to make. And then just be careful, as long as you center those bands really well before you pull out your hook, they should stay there just fine. So make all 6 of those, and then when you come back, we'll start with the next part, which we're going to be on the loom again, wrong end towards us, and we'll start in the middle of the loom here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7th pin up in the center is where we'll have the start, and we'll do a starburst right here, which is, we're going to have 2 bands, and we're going to go out to the 6 pins around from the center pin. So like that. And then on your center pin, you're going to take 2 bands and wrap them around 3 times. So 1, 2, and 3. And then once you have that, you'll go in through that center cap band you put on, grab the top 2 bands, pull them up through there, and pull them back towards themselves. And you do that all the way around. Grab the next 2, pull those back. Next 2, just 2, pull those back, and just keep going around like that. So now this next row is going to be our eye row, and this is where you need to decide where you want to put your eyes on your design. So if you're going to have the face that looks like this one, when you put your eyes on, they're going to go right here and right here. So they'll be on the right side of the loom across from each other right here. Now if you're going to do the eyes like this one, they'll be on the top portion right here in these corners. So it's up to you where you want to put them. So I'm going to actually put them on the top side again, I think. So I'll start here. So the one that I'm making is going to look like this one again, and then if you want the one that looks like this one, you put it on the lower portion right here. Hopefully I made that clear enough. I don't want anybody to be like, that's not the eyes I wanted. So I'll go through it again one more time. Make my other eye. And it is 2 bands through the center of the pony bead. So like that. The way I have it on here, it's going to make this face. If you want this face, put the beads down on these bands right here. So make your choice. Alright, so then what we're going to do is you're going to go and flip over the bottom 4 on all the pins. Like that. I'll have to find some brown beads and make it again, I think, too. So what we're going to do is we're going to expand all of our pins on this. So I'm going to start up here on the top right, and for me, I can just grab the top 2 bands and lift them up to the next pin above. There's no crossing right here. But for this lower one, I have to actually move all 4 bands down a pin. I'm going to show you what I mean when I say the crossing thing. If I just pick up the top 2 bands and bring them down, I've crossed over the band that's still on this pin. So if I put that there, you can kind of see that crossing of the bands. We don't want that. So you just pick up all 4 bands, bring them down a pin, and then bring the top 2 back. And you can see there's no crossing here now. So I'll come over to the other side and do the same thing. This side, I have to pick up all 4 bands, bring them up a pin, and then bring the top 2 bands back. And this lower one, you do the same thing, pick up all 4 bands, bring them down, and then bring the top 2 back. And then for the middle pins, I'm going to pick up the top 2 bands, see where they're coming from. This one's coming from the right side, so it's going to go to the right side. Next pin down. And the same thing for this one, it's coming from the left, so that'll go to the left side. And then do the same thing up here. These bands are coming from the left, so they're going to go to the left side. And the other ones are going to go to the right. So like that. So now we're going to do our cheek row. So it'll be, the cheeks are going to go right here on the design. So I'm going to start down here with 2 bands, then we'll have a cheek, and the next 3 spots will be just 2 bands. And then right here will be the other cheek. And then all the way around the rest will be 2 bands. Like that. So then you go and you flip the bottom 2 bands on every pin. like that. Push it down. So now we want to put on the mouth bands. It is 2 bands, and what we're going to do is it's going to be stretched across these 4 pins right here in the center on the cheek side. So what I'm going to do is take the 2 bands, put them on my hook, and on this second pin down on the cheek side, I'm going to grab all 4 of those bands that are on the pin, pull them up, let those 2 bands slide down, and put the bands back onto the hook, or back onto the pin, sorry, pin. So they're like that. Then I'll just flip them over the top so they're laying underneath. And then what I'm going to do is just go in through the next bands over, snag those 2 bands with my hook, pull them up through and over the top of the pin. And then I can grab the band and slide it out. So now it's wrapped around 2 pins. So I'll go to the 3rd one down, or 4th one down, 3rd one in our mouth, and do the same thing. Grab those bands, pull them up under and over the top of the pin. Stretch that band out underneath. So now we're on 3 pins, and we're going to do that one more time. Snag those bands, pull them up over the top of the pin, stretch it out, and then once you have it over 4 pins, you just take it and flip it up over the top of the pins, like so. See, now it's perfect frowny face like this. Or street face. So what we're going to do next is 3 rows all around the entire portion here. So 2 bands, and we're just going to go all the way around, flip the bottom 4, and do that a total of 3 rows. And then we'll go on to our next step after that. This weekend I plan to go to my hometown for a Set in Mai celebration, which is it's the 17th of May. It's the Norwegian, I believe, Independence Day, if I remember correctly. The area I grew up in is very heavily full of Scandinavian persons, so like that. That's our first row. Flip over the bottom 4. So they have a little celebration every year there. It's kind of neat. It's I am not Scandinavian myself, so it's just kind of, although I'm a little Norwegian, I guess, so it's pretty darn close. But hopefully I can say that and it won't be like, they're not the same. Same area. Like that. So then I'm going to flip over these parts, pull them towards the center here on the end. And we'll do our second row. 2 bands all the way around. That's a little thing they do in the town to just kind of get everybody together. I grew up in a very small town, so it's not a very big celebration usually. But it, they have like a car show and a little like lawnmower tractor pull thing, and they usually have a food stands, and they have a big tent full of crafts and food that people are selling, and I know they also have an art show, and I'm trying to think what else they usually have. There's a scavenger hunt to find a button type thing for Clue. There's our second row. To flip over the bottom 4 again. I remember trying to find I think it was a little Nice statue, which is like a little gnome statue that they would hide, and they'd put out clues in the paper like a week or 2 before, and you have to try and find it. And I remember my friends and I would always like run to the newspaper office and check it out in the window, and we never found it, but it was entertaining. And then, let's see. So I have one more row to go, all the way around. But they also have a stand where they do a traditional breakfast, and they serve something called ramagrat, which I haven't tried since I was a kid, so maybe my taste factor things will change, but I just remember it looked like oatmeal, had the texture like maybe tapioca oatmeal type thing, and as a kid I did not enjoy it. So we're gonna see how it is as an adult, and I'm gonna try it again, and hopefully it'll be something that I'll enjoy. So this is our third row, so you flip over the bottom 4 again. So I think it'll be fun to go back and see all that. Make me feel like a kid again. See how my kids look at how I grew up, and now that they're older and they're growing up in a much bigger city than I did, so they can see that I really did not have a movie theater in the corner and all those other things. So I'm just pulling up the center here a little bit. Like that. You want to push all these down. So now we are going to add our sunbeams. Make sure it's all pushed down. So how we're going to do this is you'll take one of your sunbeams and you're going to put your hook back through the little bands that you have sticking out holding it together. There's one. Just make sure you go through them in order. So the other end of these bands first, and then grab the other side like that. So you have all 4 on your hook. And then starting on this pin right here in the front, you'll grab or place the first 2 bands on that pin. And then as you kind of work your way down the loom, the next 2 bands that are in line on your hook are going to go onto the pin first. And then that same pin, the 2 bands right in the middle that are next to each other, they're going to go on the same pin. So the next 2, same pin. And then the last ones on your hook will go on the 3rd pin. So the sunbeams are stretched over 3 pins. On your pin. So once you have it like this, what you want to do is you just kind of slide this over. And there's a little spot where it'll flip over the top so it goes into the center. So it will look like this. Just be very careful, take your time. I haven't had any flip off on me yet, but of course I'm doing a tutorial, so we'll see how that works. So we want it to look like this. So when we flip over the bands, in the middle one, it'll just go over those middle 4 bands. We don't have to worry about the sunbeam being in the way. So we do that on all the way around. The corners, it's a little bit longer stretch, but we'll get to there. But again, go through one end and the next portion of that one. And the next 2 and 2. Like that. So I'm going to start right on top of where we ended our last sunbeam. Like that. And our next 2 bands are going to go on the pin. We'll put the first ones on our hook on the pin first, and then come back for the second ones. And then the last set on your hook go onto the 3rd pin over. So again, looks like that. Flip it. So it's on the inside. Get on my hook again. So So again, starting at where I left the last sunbeam off, right there. Next pin is going to have the next set of bands, and then that third set of bands, and then our last set of bands is going to come around the corner. So it's going to get a stretch, and that's alright, but we need to do the same thing. Flip that sunbeam over the top of the pin. Until it sits in the center. If you go nice and slow, you shouldn't have any problem. And just kind of eyeball that center as you're pulling it over too. So just keep rotating your loom around, and then we'll put on the rest of these. Like that. Start where we left off. First set. Second set on the next pin. Third set on the same pin. And then fourth set on the third pin. And again, flip over. Almost had it slide off, but I caught it because I was going slow. A couple more. Starting where we left off. Next set on the next pin. Next set on the same pin. And the last one's on the next pin over. Again, flip over. One more to go. Starting where we left off. Next bands on the next pin on the corner. Same pin. And then a long stretch to the beginning. And again, flip it over. So it should look something like this when you're all done. Well, it should look like this, hopefully. And then what we're going to do is you're going to flip the bottom four all the way around. I always say my hometown is a very small town. It's gotten a little bigger. They did get a traffic light recently in the last couple years, so yeah, that's a pretty big deal. Although we have had, my town has a ski jump there, and it has been used in Olympic events where we actually had televised Olympic events there, so that was a big to-do. It's very popular there in my area. It's kind of one of the standard sports that kids are doing. So like that. And so now, make this pretty easy, but we need to do 4 rows all the way around the entire thing. And then we'll work on getting to the next section after that. So start 2 bands and go all the way around. Gets a little tight and squishy trying to get the bands where the sunbeams are on the sides, but after you get a couple rows up, the whole thing moves up and it gets a little easier. So we'll do our first row all the way around. I have to tell you, it was funny because with the ski jumpers, they'd come from all over the world to be hosted by families in our town. My parents have done a few hosting, or some hosting for quite a few years. Normally it was the Finland team. But when I was younger, before we had started hosting, the neighbor across the street, I have to tell you, I lived across the street from the high school basketball coach and the high school principal, and there's a 5th grade teacher and a 2nd grade teacher, and then so like this all the way around, and then you flip the bottom 4. This is our first row. Then up the street there was like a special education teacher. I mean, it was just full of teachers, and especially living right across the street from the principal, I was like, oh, I mean, I was a good kid, but it was just weird. So to see him like outside mowing his lawn and running around in shorts when every day when he was in school, he was always in suits and ties. It was very weird. Like that, push our bands down. Like that, and we'll do our second row. All the way around. I'm going to mark it just because I'm talking. Might forget where I am. But yeah, principal wasn't a bad guy, but it was just weird. It'd be like seeing your boss who like tells you what to do and, you know, expects things out of you, living across the street from them, and then going, you know, seeing them out like sun tanning in their front yard, or it'd just be weird. It was weird. I think I kind of, oh, never mind, I'll go back to my original story, get lost on a tangent. But the basketball coach that lived across the street, he hosted one of the Norwegian ski teams, and I was probably 11 or 12, and it's like that, second row, flip the bottom 4, and it was interesting because I would sit there and like peek out of my window and watch them do their training in the front yard of the house across the street. Young girl deciding that boys were cute, and here were these Olympic trained athletes. You know, they were practicing like ski jumping across the street and doing like jumping jacks and weird stuff like that. So like that. Next row, third row. But it was weird. It's like, oh, it's that time of year again. The Norwegians are coming back. It's like, I don't know. It was funny. Looking back on it, I kind of chuckle. Just, it's like, there they are. Just spying on the neighbors. I wouldn't do that I wouldn't do that anymore, but it's like, when you're a young kid, you know, look at what are the neighbors doing? But yes, there is a little bit of a claim to fame for that small town, but it's definitely a small town. Like I said, we just got our first traffic light a few years ago, so kind of funny. Like that. It's our third row, so we'll flip over the bottom 4 and then do another row. Probably pull this up now in the center, since we are definitely, you can see it building up below. Like that. So that's our third row. I'm going to pull up the center portion here. kind of, there we go. A little easier now. We'll do our 4th row all the way around. I still giggle at myself every time I think of just the silly things I did as a kid. Kind of learning about life and how to relate to people. It's funny. I seriously just want to giggle at myself right now. So there's our 4th row. And we'll flip the bottom 4 all the way around. Like that. So you want to push these down. And now we're going to reduce basically every other pin or so, so we can kind of close up the back nicely. So I'm going to start down here on this first pin on the bottom right. I'm going to, well, first I'm going to push these bands back over the top of the pin. But then I'll come back. I'm going to grab the top 2 bands. And I'm going to see where they're coming from, and they're actually coming from this top right pin. So I'm going to bring them over to the left, so the opposite from where they're coming from. So in these bands that are still on the pin, they're from the left, so they're going to go over to the right. So then I just reduce this pin. So what we'll do is we'll go around. So here's, this pin has reducing bands on it, so we're going to come up to the next pin up. I'll grab the top 2 bands. They should be coming from the top pin. So they're going to go down to the bottom pin. Then the other 2 bands will go up to the top pin. Then come over to the next one up. Same thing. Grab the top 2 bands, see where they're coming from, and take them to the opposite direction. And the same with the next. So when you're done with the first side, you should have 3 pins with bands. So as we come over to the other side, we're going to start in this top corner, grab the top 2 bands. Actually, first I'm going to push these bands back. We'll push these bands back over the top of the pen here. Like that. And now we'll take the top 2 bands. They're coming from the lower pin, so they're going to come over to the right side. And I'll grab the other 2 and bring them over to the left pin down, one down. Then again, here's where we left off, so we'll go to the next pin down, grab the top 2. They're coming from the lower pin, so they're going to go to the upper pin. And the next 2 on there are going to go to the lower pin. And then our next pin down, from where we left off, I'll grab the top 2. And they're coming from the lower pin, so they're going to go to the upper pin. And then the other 2 bands are going to come down below. So it's the same thing. We should be left with 3 pins with bands on them on the other side. If I can squish them enough. So like that. So it's kind of an angle on the ends. It's hard to squish them enough. So what we're going to do is do a row around. It'll be 2 bands, and it's just be a long stretch between all of the sections. So make sure everything is pushed down. 2 bands all the way across the bottom. Then at the side, it'll be a long stretch. Another one. Same thing on the end. On the other side. So like that. And then when you flip, every pin should have 4 bands from the reducing that you did. And then there'll be 4 bands underneath that from the previous row. So you flip those over on every pin. I usually find it easier to grab the reducing bands first, flip those over, and then flip the other 4, just because the reducing bands kind of hold the pins or the bands down. And then I'll flip these over after I've gotten past them. So reducing bands, bottom 4, and then you can flip this over towards the center. And the other side. Alright. I'm going to give this a little careful tug. So hopefully reduce any of the big stretching that's going on here. So I'm just going to gather this all up on my hook. If you want to, you can take the bands that are up here, bring them closer together, or bring them all closer together on the far side so that when you put them all in your hook, you don't have quite a big of a stretch as you're going around. Just make sure that it is all pushed down on the pins as far as you can get it. It is kind of wanting to pop up because there's a lot of design above the top, so just keep that in mind. But I'm going to start by taking my hook, going into the bands, picking them up from all the pins, being careful, especially the last ones when we get over there. And last ones they really want to come off, so be careful as you're going around. Like that. It's all on my hook. Take 2 bands, pull it through, try not to snag stuff, both ends back on, do a slip knot to close it up, pull it tight, hide it, like that. And you may have, depending on the bands you use, like the jelly ones I didn't notice it too badly, but when you have the long stretch at the end that we did, there might be a few bands that are kind of poking out. You'll have to go back in with your hook and kind of loosen up some of the bands that are around it to kind of reduce any long stretches. And I can't even hardly even see them here with the jelly bands, but I know they're there. So that's the back side. And then the front side, I smushed. Now it definitely looks frowny. So, but I'm just gonna, you can kind of push on the back to pull that front out. Then you just kind of start kind of playing tug of war, and it should pop back up. And then once you get it kind of all positioned, and after they sit for a while, especially the bands, like this one's been sitting for a while out, so like the squish factor just kind of like mostly pops back up where it belongs pretty easily, versus when you first have it you might have to adjust some stuff. So here's my frowny guy. I knew I hooked his face when I was pulling him up. You might have to unhide your cheeks. Do that. Unhide your cheeks, maybe fix your mouth if you need to. Then the eyes. I know I snagged the band when I was pulling his face up. Darn my careless hooking. Making me look bad here. Center face. What is that? Yikes. Well, I was just going to give him a nose, that's all. Really? I pulled it again? Okay. Trying to find that center cap band to pull. There. Alright, so just kind of adjust it how you need to. It'll take a minute. When the eyes are down here, it's a little easier too, because they don't have as much room to go. Looks a little crazy right here. Very happy. Very happy. They're very smiley. The eyes tell a different story, don't they? It's kind of like when people are smiling, but you know that they're not smiling because they're happy. So then you may have to go, also don't forget about the points. Just take your hook in the ends of them if you haven't already and pull them out to make them pointy. There's no specific band you're looking for, it's just there's a couple that when you pull on them they have a nice point to them when you're done. But that is my happy sun. And I usually give these a little squish back. So they're a little puffy but still pointy. And I should unpop this again. There. Whoop. Awesome. I hope that you agree. I think that they're super cute. Oop. Getting my bands out of the way. And like I said, I love how they go with the rainbow too, so. Still not sure on the face. That's why I gave you the option, because I think both are cute in their own way, and I think that's why I'm sticking with them both ways. So, but if you make some of these, you definitely need to share them with me on my Instagram, which is at Crafting Fantastic, or on my Facebook page, which is feelinspiffy or Crafting Fantastic. And then look at this. You're not cooperating. There. No. You get what I'm trying to do here. Alright. And then, of course, it would be awesome if you guys would subscribe to my channel. Definitely is very cool to kind of see how many people are interested in what I'm doing. It's awesome. It's still crazy to me. Still super crazy. But then, of course, like the videos if you want to see more awesome happy stuff and more Rainbow Loom designs. And if you just like what I've been doing so far, that would be awesome. But thank you very much for watching. I will definitely have more things for you soon. Can't wait to see which one kind of wins for the eyes of who liked what better. Because as people start posting them to the Instagram, I'll be like, they like those eyes, they like those eyes. And so we'll just kind of see how that goes. So I'm excited to see that too. But thanks you guys. I will definitely have more for you soon. Happy looming.